Once upon a time, I took an internship up to the state of Alaska. And it was with a church that was based out of a movie theater, and that they had not changed it at all. That was their place. And they had their sanctuary where the actual theater was, and they would host like actual movies and stuff just to be part of the community. And in that unique space, in that unique setting, I found one of the most interesting communities of Christians I've ever seen. See, this community of Christians, the way that they did ministry was not based on their four walls of their building. What they did was almost entirely away from the church. Almost every single event that I got to be a part of was built around going out into the community, going away from their space and going and meeting people where they were at. One of the biggest things that we did as an outreach was play ultimate frisbee. Now, that might sound crazy to you, but one of the big things that they were teaching us while we were in Alaska is that a lot of Alaskans identify with the community that they're a part of. So if you want to reach them, you've got to be part of their community. And so a lot of the ministry that we were doing was focused on being part of that community, right? And we would do hikes, and we would do various like kayaking and runs and all sorts of different outdoorsy sort of activities. And always we'd be inviting people to these events that were coming from outside of the Christian community so that we could build relationship with them. It was amazing. And it was obviously working because there were a ton of people that were being able to connect with the church without being at church and without the stigma that is often surrounding church for a lot of people. And I remember as we were going through this community and as we were learning on how to be part of it and how we were learning and how to actually go out and be disciples in that way, I realized very quickly that a lot of the communities that I had been a part of were vastly different than what they needed to be up there. And it was with this community and in this unique space that my old community, the ones that were built with deep, deep friendships and people that I had cared about for a very long period of time, those suddenly fell apart when I wasn't around. And I've talked a little bit about it in a different video. You're welcome to go and watch that. But during this deep time of pain and for me, tragedy with these broken and dying relationships, I found that being part of a community was actually a much more challenging thing than what I first initially thought. Because what I initially thought was the standard extroverted thing. If I go and make friends and then we hang out a lot, then we'll just be friends forever and I'll just keep all my friends and it'll be great. Obviously that doesn't work because we're talking about people and people are messy. And so some stuff fell apart and some things happened that I lost a lot of people in my life. And this new community I knew was only temporary because I was only there for a couple months. And so I really started questioning, like, how do I actually connect with a community of people that care about me? And one of the things that I have had the luxury of experiencing is the diversity of community within the church is abundant. See, in that same time, I had a few people who really did want to stay friends with me and really did want to keep a relationship with me. And they fought hard for me. They stuck with me through things that dozens of other people told them, hey, Josh is a terrible person. You should never talk to him again. And so they fought with me and they stuck with me. And after that, I had people from the Alaska community that I was able to kind of go back to and say, hey, like, you remember this hike? Yeah, this meant a lot to me because I was going through this. Or, hey, this is a special thing that I remember because while we were just out there playing ultimate frisbee, really, I just needed a friend, and you were that friend, and I really appreciate that. And then when I came back here, God led me to a couple guys in particular that they've really become my accountability. They've become some of the best friends that I've ever had. And those guys have challenged me and helped me grow and helped me continue on this journey with Christ in new and better ways. With each stage of communities that I've been a part of, I've had a huge blessing of people that have been placed into my life because of the church. And I think that's one of the coolest things of the church, that if you're willing to place yourself in the middle of it all and say, hey, I need a community, There are people within the church that want to be your person. We want to do life together. And it's so hard to do life alone. And we know that because all of us have experienced it. All of us are living life. And if we truly believe that Christ has placed value inside of every single community member, one of the most beautiful things that comes out of that is that we look at one another and we say, hey, you're important. I want to be there for you. And right alongside of that, one of the most interesting elements to this is that even when you're alone and on your own without that community right next to you, God is present. See, while I was in Alaska and while I was dealing with all of this and I was wrapping up my time, starting to get ready to go home, I knew that a ton of the relationships that I had at home were now broken. And I knew a lot of the people that I would walk by doing my normal day-to-day sort of things, people that I would just happen to bump into would hate me. And I really didn't know how to wrestle with that. I didn't know what to do. And so on one of the last days that I was in Alaska, I decided, you know what? I'm going to get up really, really early, like 4 or 5 a.m., and I'm going to go climb a mountain. Now, it was a trail that we had already done, so I knew it somewhat well. And it was also one that was pretty close to town, so it was pretty uncommon to have things like mountain lions or bears or even big moose in that area. So it was a fairly safe trail. I was fairly experienced with it. It seemed like a good idea to just go and do this last sort of huzzah thing. And when I got there, it was really early in the morning still. I start my trail hike. There's no other cars in the parking lot. And I get about, I don't know, maybe halfway on this mountain hike. And I realize there's literally no one. And not only was it no one, but after about halfway on this trail, you really can't see the city anymore. And so I was kind of roaming a paved and tamed part of the Alaska wilderness, realizing I'm completely isolated. And I continue on down the path. And eventually it starts sloping up the biggest part of the mountain. And I'm climbing and I'm climbing and I'm climbing. And visibility is going down and down and down because the clouds were low and there was a nice haze over everything already anyway. And so as I'm climbing up this mountain in kind of the gloomy, lightish gray consistency of the morning, I think to myself, man, I am just so alone. And that sensation of climbing into the clouds and almost becoming invisible to everything and everyone is exactly what I felt internally. I felt alone, unseen, unheard, and uncared about. And even as people were willing to stick up for me in this difficult time, and even as I was meeting new friends in that community already, I felt so isolated. But all of a sudden, I climbed out of the cloud cover and up onto one of the last flat spots before the final hike. And everything broke open. The clouds didn't go any higher, so it was just a sheet of white fluff in front of me. Bright sun up above. And everything else was gone. It was all underneath the cloud cover. You couldn't see the trail. You couldn't see the other mountains that were nearby. The only thing that you could see were mountains that were taller than where you were. And the one trail going up the rest of the way for you. That was it. Nothing else. And I remember climbing the rest of the way, getting up to the very top, and just taking a huge breath. And realizing that regardless of what happens, regardless of what I'm going back to, regardless of what even occurs when I reach the bottom of this mountain today, God has hand designed all of this. all of this beauty. And he crafted me saying that he cared about me. The enormity of the mountains and the expanse of these clouds had nothing on the value that he placed on me. And that's true for you too. And the community of Christ is a powerful thing, but communion with Christ is impossibly infinite. We have been given an awesome group of individuals to care and love us as people, individuals here on earth. And we've also, in tandem, been given a compassionate and loving Savior that looks at each of us personally and says, I see your trouble. I see your difficulty. I see how you struggle. And I love you. And you're not going to do it alone. So for today, I just want you to remember that God has crafted a community of people and a communion with himself that you can have so that you know that you're not alone. You don't have to fight alone. You shouldn't fight alone because there are people that long and want to be your go-to. And there's a God who loves you so much that even in the beauty and expanse of every bit of nature, even inside of that, you are above it and counted as more valuable, more important, and more loved. You're important. You're loved. Thanks for sticking with me on this day. I'll see you on the next one.